No, no, they just felt like they wanted to see their dad make a fool of himself, so they got me a skateboard.
Did you accommodate?
Yeah,
But you came unscathed.
yeah. I didn't come limping in, so I made it.
All right, you guys. We'll get started with a comment from Sonny and open up for questions.
Looking forward to playing USC Thursday night. Going to Los Angeles and playing the Coliseum, I think is something our players are looking forward to and excited about the challenge. USC is a good football team, a team that is, I think, gets better and better. A lot of talent. I think everybody knows that they're going to be a talented football team that challenges you in a lot of different ways, really big on both sides of the ball. An explosive team that runs the ball well and can also get the ball down the field in their passing game. And then, a team that's made a lot of big plays on special teams. So it'd be a big challenge for us. But again, our guys are looking forward to getting down to Southern California and competing against a good program.
Sonny, do you kick the ball away from Aguilar, or how do you deal with that after last year?
Yeah, I think you've got to try to balance it a little bit. I mean, I think the biggest thing you want to do is we've got to cover better. And we had done that most of the year and obviously gave up a punt return against Oregon that was frustrating for us. And we covered pretty well. We just didn't tackle particularly well in that instance. So, I at some point you got to get where you can cover. And so I think that, we'll challenge our guys, and we've really focused on improving our coverage units in this extra time that we've had. We've looked at some personnel. We've made some changes. We've really emphasized it. We know it's going to be a big part of giving ourselves a chance to win Saturday. So we've, we'll see. We'll kind of see how it plays out.
Are you guys healthier at those spots now than you were a few weeks ago?
Yeah, we were pretty banged up on our coverage units, and we've gotten some guys back, and are much more healthier than we have been. And a lot of those weren't really significant injuries; they were just an injury here, an injury there, a guy out this week, a guy couldn't practice, and so we were just really young with our coverage units. And now the guys have gotten more experience, and we've also gotten some players back. That from injury that'll give us a little bit more depth.
When you're playing USC, is sort of traditionally one of the things you got to deal with is the fact that they always seem to have great offensive and defensive linemen. I mean, the NFL's filled with their former players. And how do you think you match up now at this point with them in those spots?
Well, they're you just look at the size of their guys. I mean, they're big guys. Their offensive line is young. I think the center is probably one of the best linemen I've seen. I think he's a very good player. The other guys are good players. They just don't have a ton of experience, and they're very talented, very big, very strong, very athletic. But relatively young. On their defensive front, a little bit more experienced group, but just as I described their offensive group, I mean, they're big, they're athletic, they're talented. That's why I think when you go and you look at USC, the skill position players win Heisman trophies and have had a lot of things good happen to them. But you go and you look at their history, they've always had good offensive and defensive lines, and that's really how they've built their program through the years. They always had great offensive linemen, and that allowed them to have great running backs and really productive guys. And those two things go hand in hand, and I think they've been productive running the football this year because they have a very good offensive line.
Have you been able to pinpoint whatever's happened in the offensive line the last few weeks, and how can you guys maybe ensure that keeps moving and uptick?
Yeah, I think we were disappointed with the way we played against Washington and just challenged them a little bit, and I think they've come back refocused and really wanted them to play physical, and I think they've played the most physical the last 2 weeks that we've ever played. Certainly in the year and a half I've been here, the last 2 weeks, and I think the group is just starting to develop a little bit of an identity and starting to to really function well as a group and as a unit. And when those guys begin to do that, then that's when they usually start to have a lot of success. And I think a big part of that has been, staying healthy with that group. And it's been mostly the same 5 starters most of the year, and I think that's really led to their development.
Yeah, you already talked about SC's defensive linemen, but what about the rest of their defense? What sort of things do they try to do? What kind of style do they play? And
Well, they're athletic, and they're going to move their front around a lot, blitz, and just try to play good physical football. I mean, that's when you look at their defensive linemen, that's what you see. Is you see some guys coming off. They use their hands well. Their defensive line does. The ends are athletic. They play a lot of different guys coming off the edge as pass rushers, and they're all pretty effective in what they do. Just a physical group. I think that's the thing that stands out the most. Is just they'll come off the ball and they'll hit you in the mouth and mix it up, and it frees up their linebackers to make plays. Hayes Pillard's a good player. He makes a lot of plays. He's always around the football. He's got a lot of experience at that linebacker spot, and then when you look at the back end, they're just very athletic. A lot of long guys that run well, cover well. They've done a nice job of open field tackling. That's one thing that stands out about these guys is people get the ball in the open field against them, and they usually find a way to get them on the ground. And that usually speaks to how athletic a defense is. That's the biggest thing when you look at them. If you're a good tackling defense, that usually means you have a lot of good athletes on the defense.
do they blitz a lot, or do they just try to?
Yeah, no, they're definitely going to blitz and move their guys around, and they'll show you a lot of different things. One thing that they don't want to do, they don't want you to get too comfortable and settled, and so they mix it up enough to keep you off balance and do a nice job of creating some different pressures week to week. They'll have a good plan against us and try to attack our protections, and they seem to generate something like that every week.
In a league where there's a lot of good quarterbacks, it seems like Cody Kessler doesn't get mentioned much, but I think he's got like 25 touchdowns and 2 picks all season. What are your impressions of him?
Yeah, it's just the funny thing about it is one of the worst things you can say about a quarterback is that he's kind of really executes the system well, because then somehow people see that as a slight, and that's not the case at all. I mean, I think if you look at the best quarterbacks in college football and the NFL, they're system guys, and he does a nice job of executing this system. He really takes care of the football, doesn't make a lot of mistakes, very decisive in his decision making. Has a lot of confidence in his wide receivers. He'll let them go make plays on the ball. And so they've done a nice job of managing their offense, where he's completing a really high percentage of his passes and utilizes all the skill players. They'll throw it to the tight ends, the fullbacks, the running backs, and the receivers. And so, they do enough offensively just where, they keep you off balance. And he's been really effective. Like I said, takes care of the ball, playing really smart. And so, when you play against a quarterback that's doing that, that's tough.
In one of the practice periods, you guys will have quarterbacks lob balls into a bucket. Is that something you ever did before meeting Coach Franklin?
Yeah, I think the guy that really, I don't know if that was a Hal Mummy or a Chris Hatcher thing. There were Chris was a quarterback that played for Hal at Valdosta State, and so Chris kind of worked with our quarterbacks at Kentucky. That was the first time I ever saw the drill run. Now, you know how that stuff goes. I mean, I'm sure I've taken credit for it, for the drill. I'm sure Tony has. I'm sure Hal has. I'm sure Chris has. I'm sure Coach Leach has. Everybody kind of takes credit for stuff. But, there's no telling who saw it first. It was probably, some junior high coach in Cisco, Texas, or somebody saw him doing it and just kind of copied it. But honestly, so in other words, I don't really know. I don't know whose idea it was or where it came from, but as I said, I'm sure there's a lot of people taking credit for it.
How do you think it helps your quarterbacks?
Well, I think it. The funny thing about quarterback play is there's so much made out of arm strength, and I think when you sit down and you say what makes a quarterback a good quarterback, there's probably 10 things that come before arm strength, and I think as much as anything else, just being able to throw the ball with touch, because good quarterbacks can get the ball to drop where they want it to drop. I mean, when you think about what's throwing the football, it's right place at the right time. Okay, and so that's really, how does it, it doesn't matter how you get there, it just matters that it does get there. And, the best example that I ever saw was Kurt Warner. I don't know if Kurt Warner could throw the ball 30 yards, but, it got to the right spot at the right time all the time. And so, I think this drill teaches you how to throw it with touch, and because obviously you don't want the bucket to get knocked over. You want the ball to fall directly in the bucket, so it's got to be on its downward flight. And it's really a drill that's designed for goal line fades, more than anything else, where you want to drop the ball in a particular spot in the end zone, and something that our guys have done through the years, and I think it served us well.
It looked like Lawler and Davis, I guess, did they practice both days on the weekend?
Yes, they did.
And where are they at this point for this?
Good.
Week?
Yeah, I
and
think
Avery as well. Avery Sebastian.
Yeah, I think they've all three practiced full this week, and so we anticipate them all playing, in the ball game. I think how much will be determined by just how we practice today or tomorrow rather, and how they do on Wednesday and how they feel on Thursday. But I would anticipate all three of them playing, significantly.
Okay, any further questions?
I know you guys didn't want to make excuses with those guys out of the game, but how much can it be helpful, and how much helpful can it be having those guys
it's good
back?
to get them back. Yeah, I mean, I think it's certainly good to get them back. I mean, it's important for us to always have depth at those wide receiver spots, and they're two of our most productive players, and they're both they both give us a little bit something different than the other guys give us. And the great thing is all these receivers complement each other, and they're better as a unit than they are individually. And just because they can all do different things, and they all bring something different to the table. And so it's good to get them both back. Trevor's been a very productive player for us on special teams. And then Kenny's been such a force on, throwing fade balls and back shoulder throws and all the stuff that he's really good at. I don't know yet. Yeah, no, his neck's feeling great. It's just, I don't know. We'll kind of see how that goes.
Okay, anything else? Okay, well, players shortly.
Okay, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.